Shannon, you first. Are the Panthers going to make the playoffs?
Both Skip and that simulation are out of their minds. No, because that goes back to the belief for me that I don't believe Baker Mayfield changes your life. Is he better than Sam Darnold? If he is, he's only slightly better than Sam Darnold. And so a lot is going to be contingent on C-Mac. How healthy can he stay? He's only had 10 total games over the last 2 seasons. But in order for you to maximize C-Mac and get the most out of him, you're going to have to give him the ball, throw him the ball. So he's going to have to touch the ball in some capacity, which means there's a greater chance of hit, there's a greater chance of injury arising. But for me, when I look at Baker Mayfield, I just can't ignore the fact that he's thrown the most interceptions since he's entered into the league. He's a turnover machine. Skip says he's a careful gambler. I don't see it. I just see a guy that gets reckless with the ball. This is 29th, and the offense was 29th in scoring, 30th in yards last year. So in order for them to make the playoffs, Baker's going to have to move them up at least at the bare minimum 14, 15 spots. I don't see that happening. So I got 2 teams possibly coming out of that division. I don't see 3. Saints, I like the Saints. Obviously, people don't believe Tampa. If they're poised to take a step back, I don't see that with Tom Brady. Obviously, something happened to him. We're going to talk about him a little later. All bets are off. But I don't see the Carolina Panthers making the playoffs, Skip. I don't believe Baker is exponentially better than Sam Darnold. At least, what they win, 4 or 5 games last year. They're going to win, 4 or 5 more games this year. I don't see that happening.
So, Shannon Sharpe, maybe week, 10 days ago, I strode out onto the end of the limb, and I told you I believe that Baker Mayfield will lead the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs if, in fact, they give him the starting job, and as we know, they have. And then this week, we hear the Madden simulation say, oh, they're a playoff team. And then yesterday in USA Today, I read Mike Jones, their #1 NFL reporter, picked the Panthers as the team most likely to break through and break out and to make the playoffs as a wild card. And I'm thinking, maybe I was onto something once again, because what's happening in Carolina reminds me just a little bit of what happened when Tom Brady chose to go to the Succaneers. Obviously, the cupboard was not bare in Tampa Bay. They had gone 7-9 the year before because Jameis had turned the ball over way too much. But there was firepower left on defense as well as the wide receiver positions. So now I see, what did Baker Mayfield just do? He could have waited it out in Cleveland. He could have forced them just to cut and pay him and let him go free and hit the market. But no, when Carolina showed some interest, he said, you know what I'll do? I'll sacrifice a good chunk of my money to go play for you because you do want me. And you, more important, you were ranked 32nd and dead last in Sports Illustrated's offseason power ranking. So Baker Mayfield chose to go to a team that was the dregs of the earth. It was the equivalent of the Succaneers. Brady joined a team that had the worst winning percentage of any team in any sport and took them to a Super Bowl. I'm not suggesting Baker will take the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl, but I think he's a shrewd enough operator to know that he needed to reverse field. He needed to take on a situation in which he would go back to being the hopeless underdog with a chip on his shoulder that's now even bigger than that Cleveland Stadium that used to be Baker's house and those progressive ads that he relentlessly did. All of a sudden, Baker has turned himself back into the walk-on who won the Heisman Trophy at the University of Oklahoma, the walk-on who won the job against all odds at Texas Tech. All of a sudden, Baker Mayfield has a team that is quietly laying in the weeds with Christian McCaffrey at running back. If he can stay healthy, I know it's a huge if, but what if he does? With DJ Moore, a clear-cut #1 receiver, and with Robbie Anderson and with Terrace Marshall Jr. and with Rashard Higgins, who used to be Baker's favorite receiver in Cleveland. And all of a sudden, he's playing behind an offensive line that has been completely rebuilt with Ekwonu that they took 6th overall at left tackle and Bradley Bozeman, who started for the last 3 years at center for your Baltimore Ravens. Austin Corbett has come over from the Rams, and he was Baker's starting guard in the first year at Cleveland and started for the Rams the last 2 years. And obviously Taylor Moton is still there at right tackle, and his second-round pick pretty good. I kind of like that. I kind of like their defense with Brian Burns and Derek Brown and J.C. Horn and Jeremy Chin. I'm talking about potential Pro Bowlers there. I'm talking about a team that is, to use Baker's once upon a time word, dangerous. This team is dangerous enough that if it gets off hot, which I believe it will against said Cleveland Browns, it is going to go win a wild card.
Skip, you do realize that I get Tom Brady having a chip on his shoulder saying he's an underdog. I get a guy like myself, a seventh-round draft pick. Tom Brady was a sixth-round draft pick. Nobody passed Baker up. Baker was the number one pick in the draft. How's he an underdog?
Well, again, I never liked him as a front runner. I like him in a can't-win situation.
That's all he's been. You see it? When the chips are down, he over on the sideline moping and pouting. But when things are going good, rolling good, he at the front of the band. He the drum major.
Huh. Well, I saw him take a team in Cleveland that was 0-16 the year before and win 7 games as a raw rookie. You remember that?
Yeah. I seen him get 3 head coaches fired.
Okay.
I saw that. You see that?
Going into his sophomore year in the NFL, you remember the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe trying to drive the bandwagon for Baker Mayfield saying, shake and bake, baby? Do you remember that? I do.
I remember that. I remember that a long time ago.
Okay. Do you remember?
What have you done for me? Hey.
Yeah, okay. Well,
update the resume.
It wasn't that long ago that Baker Mayfield took this Cleveland Browns team on an 8-3 run to finish the season and won the first playoff game for Cleveland since 1994 at Pittsburgh against their arch rival on the road with a QBR of 91 in that game, scale of 0 to 100. That was pretty great to me.
What was Skip? What? I don't know why you love living in the past so much. Was it that good?
Well, that's
come
pretty
to the
much
future.
the present.
Come to today.
Yeah, well.
No, it's not.
Okay, but
that was 2 years ago.
But last year in week 2, he fractured his shoulder and tore his labrum in said shoulder. And even Shannon Sharpe said he shouldn't be playing, but he tried. He sucked it up. He gutted it out.
But okay. Tell the people what happened at home in week 1. In week 1, he had a 19-point lead?
It was at
Didn't he have a big old lead against Kansas City? He had that lead. He got that lead at Kansas City. And had an opportunity to win the game, and what did he do?
Well, they were the Chiefs. They're pretty good, right?
But no. That's how you become good. That's how you become great. By beating the really good, the great team. You don't get good by just beating the team you're supposed to beat. You got to beat teams that no one expects you to beat. And you need to beat them in their building. It was set up. You had a 14, 15-point lead, and then what happened? Walked down and then threw a horrible interception when you was fully healthy at the end of the game.
Okay, but in those first 2 games, at Kansas City, then home against the Texans, Baker ended up those 2 games leading the NFL in completion percentage, yet at the very end of the Texans game, he blew up his shoulder. So it looks like his
How did he blow up his shoulder? Tell the people at home how he blew his shoulder up.
He was chasing down somebody who had picked him off. That is correct.
Oh, so in other words, another turnover. Had he not turned the ball over, he'd have still been healthy, huh?
But is
that what you're telling me?
He still throws a whole lot more touchdown passes than interceptions, as you're about to your chagrin, have to watch again and again and again this year with the suddenly on the rise Carolina Panthers, thanks to the biggest bargain on the open market that we've ever seen in an offseason, Baker Mayfield.
Wasn't no bargain. Nobody else wanted it.
Yep. Here he comes. Watch him tonight. Watch and weep.
Well,
Shannon.
y'all do have due on the outcome of the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We got to do in the first game, too,
Jen. We do.
Yeah. Yes, we got a bunch to do. We got to do, Yeah.
This is going to start getting expensive for one of you. We'll find out who.
It is.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.